All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we're going to unpack this really beautiful, powerful idea, the architecture of friendship. And it all kicks off with this incredible line from the poet William Blake. The bird a nest, the spider a web. I mean, those first two parts, they just feel like laws of nature, right? Unshakable. But Blake throws in that third part, man, friendship. And for him, that wasn't just a nice thought. He saw it as just as vital, a fundamental blueprint for the human soul. So that leads us perfectly into our first big idea here, a blueprint for being. We're not talking about friendship as just, a nice thing to have. The idea here is that it's our fundamental habitat. Just like that nest or that web, friendship is the actual structure we need, not just to get by, but to really truly live.
And this really takes that idea a step further. See, Blake isn't just pointing something out here. He's making a bold claim. He's saying that connection is the required architecture for us to flourish, for our spiritual and creative survival. It's the bedrock, the foundation you absolutely have to build your life on.
Okay, so what does flourishing even mean here? Well, think of it like this. It's that state of feeling spiritually secure, of creatively thriving. And crucially, it's something that is only possible when you have that deep, mutual connection with someone. It's what Blake called the sweet delight of companionship, that feeling that makes you feel safe enough to be truly alive. And on the flip side, what happens without it? Well, without this nest, this structure of friendship, the human spirit is just out there, exposed. It's left in what you could call a state of existential isolation, totally vulnerable, completely alone. It's a pretty stark way to think about the real deep cost of loneliness, isn't it? All right, so let's dig a little deeper. We're going to shift our focus inward now, to the soul's necessary nest. We're talking about the psychological sanctuary that real connection gives us. And I absolutely love this distinction Blake makes. He says a true friend is not a horse of instruction, someone who's trying to tame you or control you or tell you how you should be. No, a real friend is a co-creator. There's someone who is right there with you, supporting and cheering on the growth of your own unique spirit. Blake had this amazing image for the isolated ego. He called it standing water. And what happens to standing water? It gets stagnant, murky, even poisonous. So what's the cure? Friendship. Friendship is what lets that energy flow out into the moving water of a shared experience. It purifies it, gives it life, and a new sense of purpose. So what's the bottom line here? It's that friendship creates a truly safe environment. It's this special space where the soul can be, as Blake put it, undefiled, where you can just be your full, authentic, expressive self without any fear of being judged or controlled. And this brings us to another really fascinating layer of this whole idea. Let's talk about heart over law. This is where we start to see friendship as something Blake called a contrary. Basically, a powerful and necessary opposition to all the cold, impersonal rules of society or organized religion. Yeah, just think about it. Go back to the bird and the spider for a second. They build their homes from this deep internal impulse, right? It comes from their very nature. And Blake's point is that friendship should be exactly the same. It should be built from the heart, from an authentic impulse, not because of some external social contract or because you feel obligated. And this quote just nails it. For Blake, the Palace of Wisdom isn't some lonely room where you sit and think by yourself. No way. It's a shared space. It's where that divine spark in one person, what he called the poetic genius, sees and celebrates that same spark in someone else. Wisdom for him is something you discover together. When you look at it this way, it totally transforms what social connection even is. Suddenly, it's not just some boring duty, not just a box you have to check off your list. It becomes a sacred art form, a really intentional, beautiful act of creating something together. Okay, so we spent some time talking about what friendship is, but now let's get into what friendship does. And that brings us to the work of friendship. This idea of connection as an act of constant, industrious creation. Blake has another brilliant metaphor for this. Think of a busy bee. When it's building its hive, it has no time to be sad. It's too busy creating. And Blake's saying that's just like us. The very act of building connections, of being deep in the work of friendship, is this incredible antidote to the misery and stagnation that can creep in. So what does this work actually look like in practice? Well, first, we're actively weaving this web of shared meaning with someone. And in doing that, we're warding off that sorrow, that stagnation. And from there, we build these amazing, powerful networks of love and intellectual exchange. It's not passive, it's a constant, active process of building.
And here's the real payoff. This is what it's all for. We are at our most creative, our most spiritually prolific, as he would say. Not when we're off on our own, but when we are right in the thick of it, building these networks of love and connecting with other people. Okay, and now we get to what might be the most radical piece of this whole puzzle: connection as rebellion. This is where friendship isn't just personal, it's a blueprint for a whole new kind of community. And the argument is actually pretty simple, but so powerful. Just like animals don't ask for permission to build their homes, they just do it. Blake says we should trust our own innate drive for friendship more than any top-down rules or hierarchies that try to control and mechanize our lives. So where does the true strength of a society come from? According to Blake, it's definitely not from its prisons or its brothels. He saw those as just institutions of control. No, the real strength, the real foundation, lies in the organic, genuine, undefiled connections between people. Think about it. We live in a world that so often tries to isolate us, right? To turn us into cogs in some giant machine. In that kind of world, forming a deep, genuine friendship, well, that becomes the ultimate act of rebellion. It's a quiet but incredibly powerful form of resistance. And all of this really boils down to one essential takeaway. Friendship is the primary architecture of a liberated and imaginative existence. It's the very structure that allows us to be free, to be creative, to be fully human. So I'll leave you with this to think about. If friendship really is the essential structure for our lives, the fundamental architecture, then the question for all of us is pretty simple, but also pretty profound. What nest are you building?